Welcome to Tea with V, guys. I'm so sorry that I'm late. I've been trying to log in to my lives on TikTok and YouTube via my laptop, and it's not been working for me. So we're a bit late today. I'm so sorry, but I was hoping to go live with the people on TikTok and YouTube as well, but my laptop's just not letting me do it. I don't know what's happening. So Instagram it is. But welcome another week. I can't believe how fast the weeks go by. Hi, Shani. Hi from Maryland. Hi. Hi, Omar. How rude. We've been waiting. Sorry. Oh, Omar, you're Nora's friend. I remember. Hi. Hi, Maddie. Hi from the Holy Land. Marhaba. I'm always screaming. I'm sorry, I'm a very loud person by nature. I get this every day on social media. I'm just a loud person, okay? Can't help it. Anyway, today, this is the last time I'm going to do Ask Me with Anything. I'm recording it, and inshallah, after today, I'll have last week's session of Tea with B and today's session of Tea with B, which, before I forget, let's get pouring for the tea. I'll have both of them up within the next couple of days on YouTube. I finally figured out what to do. So I've got it filming, ready to go. So now, last session, Ask Me Anything, and then I will move on to a themed topic every week. I'm good, thank you, Chloe. How are you? Miss you, Omar. Inshallah, I'll have another catch up with everyone soon. All the way down under from South Africa. You know, in Australia, we refer to as Australia as down under. Hi, Misha. Hi, BB. Good luck with your assessments. Hi from Italy. Hi. All right, to make it officially Tea with B, let's make sure we actually pour the tea in the first place. It doesn't look like the tea brewed enough. Wait, I swear it should have been brewed. Whoops. Okay, what are we talking about today, guys? Let's get cracking with the questions. Ask me anything. What's the topic of conversation that everyone would like me to focus on today? Hi from Lebanon. Hi. Hi, Cusco. What an awesome username. From Germany, India. Hi. Okay, first question. What was the abuse you had with your mom and your stepdad? So it's not something I'm going to go into specific detail on via a live, but both my mother and stepfather were abusive physically, and my mom was also quite abusive mentally and verbally. Like it was a multitude of different things, and I feel like when I reflect upon the abuse that happened growing up, probably the emotional and verbal abuse coming from my mother is actually the hardest to deal with and cope with, because of the fact that it's my biological mother and the connotations that come with that, like expecting a certain nature from your mother and getting something that is the polar opposite of that. So it's quite a confronting thing to experience, and then also confronting to accept as an adult when you reflect. Can you give me advice? I'm tired of being single. Stop trying to fall in love with someone else and first fall in love with yourself. I have been in 2 relationships my whole life. I've spoken to people here and there, but I've only ever been into serious relationships my whole life. I'm 30 now. And for the first one that I was in, it was quite a few years. And then I had a year where I was single. And in that year, I quite literally fell in love with myself. And I don't mean that in an egotistical way. I mean it in a sense where I found an identity outside of being attached to someone else. I found an identity in independence. And it was honestly so beautiful, and it was one of the best times of my life. Really hard at first. Not to take away from how hard breakups are, and each situation when it comes to breakups are entirely different from the next, right? But in my situation, as hard as it was in the beginning, once I started to feel comfortable standing on my own 2 feet and I moved on from the emotional attachment, etc., I gave so much more time and energy to the independence around my personality and around my day-to-day life, my overall existence, right? I hadn't done that in quite literally almost forever, because I started dating my first partner months after I ran away from home. So that experience of total independence was actually something I only really felt around the end of me being 28 years old. And I learned how to fall in love with myself. I loved, getting up in the morning and just doing whatever it was I liked doing, going out and chasing the things that I liked doing, going and wearing the things that I liked wearing, going out and hanging out with my friends and my family at my own liberty, etc. That's not to say that my previous relationship didn't allow me that. It's not that. But I don't know how else to word it other than like being severely independent, not codependent on anyone, not attached to anyone emotionally, gives you a chance to develop yourself emotionally, mentally in such a way that I think is a necessity in life. It's just the beauty of what I found mentally and emotionally, like I said, in that year of being single is amazing. So in short, stop trying to fall in love with someone else. I believe, and I'm not saying that, everyone should believe the same thing, but I believe that when the time is right, it will happen. I don't think that these are things that you can force. I don't think love, for example, is something you can go out and chase. You can, work towards it, work on building yourself up towards being the best version of whatever you would like to be. But yeah, definitely, just definitely fall in love with yourself. Don't try and, find someone to fall in love with. Focus on you first. What's the story with your mum? You want to talk about jewelry? What tea am I drinking? As always, I'm drinking a berry tea. In the evening, I drink a berry tea with lemon and honey. Jewelry, ask me specifically what you want me to talk about with jewelry. I love jewelry. But to go back to Hannah's question, what's the story with your mum? I ran away from home 8 years ago now. I was 22 years old. And I left because my mother was abusive. And like I mentioned at the start of the live, in more than one way, she was physically and verbally quite abusive. So I ran away from home and I never looked back. I'm sorry to say it so bluntly, but I feel like aside from the fact that I've had years to try and heal from it, I also talk about it now rather regularly. So it's not something I feel like impacts me as harshly as it once was when I used to talk about it previously. But anyway, if anyone is actually having tea with me, sahten, as we say in Arabic, to your health. All right, I'm just going to quickly scroll. Jesus, there is so much honey. I didn't balance the lemon and the honey properly. Okay, I've just scrolled down and I'm just answering the one where I stop at. Some people in our lives make us feel wanted. Some make us feel needed. But if the only time they make you feel wanted is when they need you, drop them people out of your life they only want to need. I used to say this to my ex, and I would say that again to anyone where the situation beckoned. You don't want to be just wanted. You want to be needed, right? You don't want your partner to just simply want you, and that goes the same with friends and etc. You don't want them to just want you. Like, you want them to feel some sort of like need, and not in a dependent kind of manner, but in a way where they value you so much that they just can't fathom their life without you, even if it's only in a slight capacity or a big capacity. That was shocking English, but you know what I mean. Please, can you repeat the story of your mum? Because I'm doing my master's and I need to take notes back. What? What has the story of my mother and I got to do with your master's? I'm so confused. I don't know if you're trying to like psychoanalyze me or what's going on. Are you doing your assessment task on my story? I'm a bit confused now. All right, I'm going to scroll down again, guys. When people, oh my gosh, I really want to talk about this. When people don't see your weak side, When people don't see you cry, they seem to think that you don't hurt. There's a place to be a lady and stand strong, but you can also be weak and let out your tears. Okay, I love that someone commented this, KK, because it is so important. I remember bringing this up with even my own father once. I brought it up with several family members before, including friends. I understand. I just kicked the camera that's recording for you guys. Anyway, it's all right. I understand that, you know, a lot of the time, especially people that have gone through some form of trauma and they've learned a means of coping. I understand that then on the outside to, you know, your average person that might not know you as well, or maybe they do, but you just have kind of an emotional wall up. People tend not to realize what you're actually going through mentally, whether it be, you know, recovering from your trauma, or whether you've done a significant amount of recovery and you're just still trying to have, you know, your simple day-to-day coping that comes years later. I feel like it's actually okay to let people see that you've got, I wouldn't call it weak, but that you've got a side to you that is, you know, capable of crying or gets emotional sometimes, etc. Because I know a lot of the time people, because I was only ever letting them see the good sides of me, and that was fine, that was my choice at the time, people had just assumed that everything was fine, and the days that I was suddenly, you know, not able to bottle things up anymore publicly, and I would just burst. Now, I'm being very generic in my example here. I'm not being really specific about what specific scenario I'm referring to, because there was multiple. But when you suddenly break down, then people are like, what's wrong with you? And they don't seem to understand. And then when you address something that happened a long time ago, in my scenario, you know, 8 years ago, people kind of seem to stop and look at you and think, what's wrong? Because they you know, they can't fathom how, you know, it's 8 years later and all of a sudden you're talking about it. But it's not all of a sudden. It's just all of a sudden that they might happen to see that side to you because you've had some sort of, you know, wall up for the past however long it's been. When's your birthday? Just checking if I have a birthday twin. I assume that was to anyone in the comment section, but I'm a New Year's baby. I was born on New Year's Day. I was actually born like literally only a few seconds into the new year when I was born. Having your morning coffee. Oh, that must have been ages ago. I'm so sorry. I've got to scroll back up again. But Satin, for you and your morning coffee. So Sojo? I'm not sure. Sophie. What was the coolest country that you've traveled to? Sorry, my English is poor. Your English was actually quite good to read there. No stress. My favorite country that I've traveled to. Someone put earmuffs over my ancestors, my Irish and Palestinian ancestors. Look, maybe I can't say that actually. My favorite country, I was going to say England because of my utter obsession with London. That's why I was making the joke about covering my ancestors' ears. I loved almost every country that I've been to. I have absolutely loved almost all of them. I think all of them. I don't think there's any country I visited that I didn't enjoy. And I find it really difficult to pick just one country as being a favorite because like I just have different things that aren't comparable that I liked about so many different places. In terms of, you know, for example, why did I like London so much? I love history. And although history can be quite brutal, and especially as someone, you know, coming from an Irish Palestinian ancestry and then talking about history in that I saw in London, like, yes, it can be quite brutal and horrible, etc. But history itself, as a single concept, without trying to dissect it into its little parts, it is something I adore. I love history and the abundance of it that I had access to in London, going through all these castles and museums, fed my whole soul. So for that reason, I always want to say London, but you got to remember I was in London for like half a year. So I had time there. But like I was in Ireland for 3 weeks during the time I was living in London, and the history there, oh my gosh, incredible. I just didn't have as much, you know, access in the means of time to appreciate it in the same capacity that I did in London. But if you want to talk about things like, you know, landscape, nature, Italy was stunning. And I know everybody talks about Italy, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's so cliche. Like, everyone says Italy. Everyone says Italy for a reason. It's cliche for a reason. And after Italy, I was only there for literally a day trip. I was in Spain and I traveled down to Morocco for one day. I was in Tangiers and it was amazing. Morocco, I cannot wait, inshallah, to go back. It was so beautiful. Morocco was stunning. So that in terms of the landscapes, via nature, but if you want to talk about then like architecture, I would say Paris. And again, Paris is so, overly adored, and it's such a cliche for someone like myself to turn around and say, oh my gosh, of course you love Paris. You know what? It's cliche for a reason, because it is stunning. Like, it has to have been the prettiest city I have ever seen in my life. If in terms of that pretty aesthetic, Paris was just stunning. Okay. I apologize for anyone that might be new here, listening to me jumping in and out of different types of questions and the context being so vastly different, and therefore my emotions correlating are so vastly different. So please don't, get weirded out by the fact that I'm talking about, Europe 1 minute and then, my childhood in the next minute. It's quite normal here. So do you have any relationship with your mother? No, in short, I'm not going to go off on a tangent like I did last week, because I'll be uploading that video onto YouTube, inshallah, before the week is out. But no, I have no relationship with my mother at all. Mashallah, you're pretty. Thank you, Opik. I'm not sure if that's your name in your username, but thank you so much. You're too kind. Much love, Wiam. Much love back at you. Thank you. Someone just said dude. I don't know what the dude is in reference to. Okay. Tips of living with a toxic person, family member or not. Okay. If you can, I'll preface my statement with if you can, you should get out of that situation. If you're living with someone that is of some form of toxic nature, probably not advisable for you to be living with them. It's hard enough when you've got toxic people in your life. Having to be around that, let alone living with them. And if it's not an option, I'm not a psychologist. I don't have proper medical, established or recognized approaches to things. All I can tell you are my own experiences. Now, I said this last week, and I think it's really good if I repeat it again this week. What were my tips, okay, when I was living with my mother? I referred to them as my coping mechanisms. I was trying to think there for a second. I referred to my tips of when I was living with my mother as what my coping mechanisms for my day-to-day life were. And I gave 3 specific tips. First, and this obviously goes with living with a toxic person. I would regard someone who is abusive as being toxic. First, if it's something that's making you rather emotional, regardless of what that emotion is, whether it be, anger, whether it be sadness, let yourself feel that emotion. Now, if you're angry, I'm not a very angry person. At most, I can get irritated. Things can irritate me, but I'm not someone to get angry very easily. So I can only assume here that means of letting yourself cope with that and experience that would be things like, the classic, get a punching bag or a stress ball, etc. Or, screaming, things like that. In my context, I am an extremely emotional person when it comes to things like crying. I'm a huge sook. I cry over a lot of things. But I find for me, it's such a great coping mechanism. And I realize, as an adult, when I reflect, that first tip that I'm mentioning now, letting yourself feel whatever emotion it is you're going through, is so good, because you just let it out. You don't bottle it up, you just let it out. So in my case, I cry, I let it out. In the other example I first mentioned, if you're an angry person, let as best you can that emotion out. Take it out on a punching bag, a stress ball, scream into your pillow, etc. So tip one, or coping mechanism 1, allow yourself to feel, don't bottle up, let yourself feel what you're going through. And then my second tip, now you can exchange the order of these last two. My second tip was to go and allow myself to write or pray. Now, if you're not a religious person, you can do this just by writing it down. I used to start off doing this as writing, and then I infused it with my prayers. Go on a whiteboard or a piece of paper or even notes on your phone and attempt to write down at least 3 things that you're grateful for. Try and shift, your energy, your mood, your soul, whatever it is you want to refer to it as, to a more positive mood. That way, it kind of helps you focus on the positive than the negative. 1 second. Make an attempt to write down 3 things you're grateful for. And like I was saying, that shifted for me into prayer. Rather than simply writing them down, I would go, and I still go into prayer and give thanks. If there's anything, I like to pray. My most favorite thing about religion is prayer. And if anything, the main thing I like to pray for or about is gratitude. It's my favorite type of prayer. So go take those things that you're recognizing as things to be grateful for, and take that into prayer and give that gratitude in that way. And then my third tip or third coping mechanism was to have some means of comfort, whatever your comforts are. I mentioned last week, I liked to go walking out in nature. I like to listen to music. I like to listen to classical music. Yes, I'm a bit of a grandma, as everyone likes to refer to me as, but that's what I like. Okay, I love walking in nature and listening to music that calms me. I love Mrs. Brown's Boys. It's an Irish comedy show. For anyone that doesn't know, put on something that makes you laugh or calms you, makes you happy, etc. So those 3 tips. So I need to kind of come up with 3 little keywords for them, but feel it, pray it, okay, or give gratitude, and then finally indulge yourself in your comforts, whatever that be. Also, another means of comfort for me is tea. I love tea. It warms me. It makes me feel so good. I probably just went on a tangent again just now, but hopefully that helps. And I'm gonna scroll down because I don't know how many questions that I've just missed. Sorry. Okay. Oh my gosh, I've missed so many. I'm very, very sorry, guys. Do you also ask God for guidance? Okay, let's talk a little bit about religion. Okay. In the spirit of transparency and in the spirit of honesty, I always want to preface topics with things I feel like are little disclaimers that people need to know. When I talk about religion, please understand that I am in no way a well-versed religious person, and I'm not actually either a very religious person. I talk about religion a lot. I'm a proud Christian, Arab, Irish. I just fused the 2 together. I am a proud Christian, Arab, Irish, Australian. That was a mouthful. And I am religious in the extent that I believe in God, but I'm not, a very, very religious person. So whatever I say, please keep that in mind going forward. But do I ask God for guidance? I suppose you could say yes, in the sense that I try to let go of whatever it is that I think I want in life, or whatever I think would be best for me. And I try to just give over to God, in the sense that whatever is right for me is what will come my way. And just try to ask for that patience and that calmness that I find anyway, comes in prayer, to accept that, whatever is meant to be is going to happen. And I need to stop, pushing for whatever it is I think is meant to be for me. And I just let life be life. That doesn't mean that I don't, simply, like you said, ask God for the guidance and then that's it. I still work hard for whatever it is I want to achieve in life, whatever my goals are. But and it is very hard to maintain. But I do try to just give over to the fact that whatever will be, whatever God is meant to have for me in my life is what will happen, and that's it. I'm so sorry, I can't keep up with the comments. Tips on studying Shakespeare. I wish I knew the name off by heart, but there are books. This is how I studied Shakespeare when I was in high school. There are books that literally, when you buy them, on the left-hand page is William Shakespeare's literal plays, scripts. And on the right-hand page, there is a translation into modern-day English. So if you can find what they are, I'll try and see if I can find what they were called, and I'll send it to you. But yeah, if you can find those books, they're amazing. It helps you understand it so much. If you can't find those books, if you don't have access to getting those books, YouTube. The amount of teachers that are on there that break down a lot of his plays and discuss them on YouTube. You know what? I am a teacher, right? So this is one thing I don't have to do, preface with, and I'm an English teacher. A lot of teachers will argue against things like YouTube, but actually there are also a lot of teachers like myself that will argue for it. YouTube is amazing. If you can, go onto YouTube and just listen and watch these people explain. A lot of people are more likely to be visual learners as opposed to oral or kinesthetic learners, which is the oral listening or the kinesthetic, the doing. A lot of people learn visually. So YouTube is really good in that sense because of the fact you tend to see some sort of visual storyline that goes along with whatever narration they're providing. So yeah, if you can go on YouTube, that'd be amazing for you too. All right, question. Where are we? Do you have any advice for a newly converted Christian? I've never had to think about that before. I guess if I was, the lighting is really bad. I notice when I come in and out, it changes a lot. I don't know if that's just on my end or if you guys can see that too. Newly converted Christian. I guess maybe pace yourself. Enjoy the process for what it is. Welcome first of all. I'm so happy for you. I hope you're enjoying this process. It'll be you'll get to a point where all of a sudden you'll probably feel well versed in the religion. Enjoy this process of discovery. Don't rush into becoming this whatever level of religiousness that you're trying to achieve. Enjoy the process. Be around like-minded people, be around people that you feel like share, not solely, but you find people that you feel you can share this journey with, that help you grow in the direction that you are hoping to grow towards. And yeah, that's so exciting. I feel like when it comes to Christianity, I say this all the time, but prayer has got to be one of the most beautiful things. And in your moments of learning, and in your moments of joy, in your moments of anything, sadness, etc., pray. It's such a beautiful thing. And even for people that aren't religious, I feel like, things like meditation or, moments of silence and self-reflection, whatever it is you refer to it as, they're rather similar in nature, these things. They're really beautiful things to turn to whenever you're learning, or wherever it is that you're stuck, or you need just that time to yourself. Let's see. Okay, question. Okay, no, that's not, sorry. Where are we? Is there a part of this where you actually drink tea? I was drinking tea at the start, and then I started to drink tea a little bit further into it, and then I kept, I do this in every live, I keep forgetting. But it's alright, I do actually drink the tea. You really love the way I talk. Thank you so much. Alright. YouTube of the play and Spark Notes is what got me through my Shakespeare days. There you go. Honestly, YouTube is the best. I don't care what anyone wants to argue. YouTube is amazing when it comes to education. Some have guides, others don't. Some need people guides and others don't. I fall in the category where I do. Sorry, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Oh, thank you, Garth. You bought a badge. Thank you. You don't have to do that. Thank you. All right. Hi from Miami. Hi. Correcting personality and correcting character. How and where do you start? I don't know if I can answer that question. I'm not one to turn around and say that that I would agree with the concept of correcting one's personality. Correcting character, I guess if you wanted to point out things that were character flaws that you believe were character flaws, then all I could argue on that front is you identifying what it is that you want to work towards, what you want to change, and then you just putting, small step-by-step approaches in place to try and work towards that. Correcting a personality, what does that mean? Because everyone's personality is so different, and I think that's great. Like, I feel like that's how it should be. But in terms of correcting, character, I assume that's referring to specific traits. Yeah, I genuinely, I'm not the right person to answer that question. But like I said, if there are things that you identify as being flaws and you have some sort of idea as to a goal you wanted to work towards, then I would just write out, those baby steps of things that you want to achieve and how you're going to achieve it, like an approach to it. Life? The question is, how are you meant to find your purpose? I'll give you an answer that you're probably not expecting. I don't believe in finding a purpose. I believe in creating it. So a lot of people will turn around and say, I want to find myself. But I don't believe in finding yourself. I believe in creating yourself, because the assumption that, you need to go out and find yourself implies that you don't really get to decide who you want to be, and you just have to go figure out what works best for you. But I feel like you can make what you want work for you if you work hard enough. If you figure out what it is about yourself that you like, what it is that you want to, enhance, work towards, etc. All these different things, right? You can create the version of yourself. You can create yourself literally as who it is you would want to be, provided you're willing to work hard enough for it. This whole concept of finding yourself, I strongly disagree with. Anybody that saw my speech on YouTube that I posted just over a week ago now, I think it was, or maybe it is a week now. A week today, actually. It was a week today. Anyone who saw that actually would have seen me end the speech with the second last quote. The last quote was from myself. The second last quote was from someone else. And in that second last quote, I said that I don't believe in finding yourself. I believe in creating yourself. So you therefore, to answer the second part of your question, you create your own purpose. You don't find your purpose. You create it. Figure it out. What are some of your life's goals? What are some of the main things you want to achieve in this life? What do you want to do with your life? Create that purpose, and then create the life that works towards that purpose. And as cliche as it definitely is going to sound, enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. You don't need to be in a rush. I think one of the biggest things I've learned this year is I don't know how to enjoy the journey, and I'm really struggling to try it and stop constantly focusing on the end goal and actually enjoy the process in working towards the goals. That's a huge flaw of mine and something I definitely need to work on. Okay, scrolling down, let's see what the questions are that I've missed. Hey Berna, can you talk a bit about how you manage a long distance relationship? Me and my boyfriend are about to do a 9 months apart. You guys seem so strong despite the distance, which is lovely to see. Okay, 9 months apart. I wish you guys so much luck, inshallah. That's not going to be easy, because I assume by that 9 months apart you mean like you guys aren't going to see each other at all. With Musa and I, yes, it's long distance, but it's not at the same time. It is long distance, don't get me wrong. We live in different states. I live in Sydney and Musa lives in Melbourne. But because of the fact that we're adults and we both work full time, it has enabled us to afford the luxury of seeing each other every weekend. if he's not coming to Sydney, I'm going to Melbourne, vice versa. I see Musa pretty much every single weekend. So it doesn't feel like your classic long distance relationship where you don't see each other as often. There are a lot of couples out there that are not long distance that only see each other at the weekends. Now, my previous relationship wasn't like that, and I know a lot of people's relationships are not like that. So I understand that, seeing your partner sometimes only at the weekend seems really difficult for a lot of people. I know people that see their partner if not every day, every second day, right? Okay, so I like, with that context established, I can't really give you a whole lot of advice, because with my limited knowledge of a long distance relationship that's not really long distance, I've been quite lucky in that regard. But in terms of you, all I can say is, do things, have some sort of a routine that keeps your relationship feeling as close to normal as possible. Maybe have some sort of schedule in place when it comes to, how often you guys are going to be talking. Maybe do something for each other that before you go. I think this is a really cute thing that I've seen done before when a couple was going away for a long period of time. I know this person who gave a calendar to her partner, and on the calendar, on every day, she had a post-it note that had something nice about her partner. And every day while that person was away, the partner would open the post note on one of the days, and you read something like a cute message from that person. And every time you're taking off a posted note off of the day on the calendar, you're getting closer and closer to the end. So it's kind of like a countdown. Now 9 months, that's a really long time. That's like on average like 270 days or something. That's probably going to be really difficult to do. So maybe try and work towards, maybe you could make some sort of countdown where you take one off every week, and inside each little sticker thing or whatever you do roughly associated with that idea, you're using it as a way to count down and add to the excitement. And one thing I will point out, whenever there's been periods where I've had to go longer without seeing Musa, one person commented there, long distance isn't long term. Like, eventually that long distance will come to an end, right? But when you have gone a period of time that's longer than normal without seeing your partner, there is a beauty in that when you do see them. Now, don't get me wrong, it's painful, it's not nice, it's horrible. But when you go a period of time that's a little bit longer than normal of not seeing your partner, and then you finally see them after that break, it's different. When you see them that first time afterwards, it feels really special. And yeah, all the other times feel special too, but just not like that. That feels like you've earned that time, and it just feels so much more magical in that moment. It's very sweet. These are that in all honesty, actually, I cannot wait, inshallah, for the day that this relationship is no longer long distance. However, don't get me wrong, I will actually always reflect, I believe, on the way that it felt, to be anticipating seeing my partner and then finally seeing him after all this time. It's a really nice feeling. It's actually, a well-earned feeling. It's beautiful. Okay, questions. Such a nice idea. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I don't think long distance doesn't have to be just simply, you guys are apart and, you just speak on the phone. Heck, you could actually make something out of it. Try and create your own little traditions or your own little, coping mechanisms that help you along. I'm good, Tanya. I'm good. How are you? All right, tea time. You love my accent. Thanks. Okay, so let me see. I'm going to scroll up because I know I missed a bunch of questions while I was explaining that. Love these ideas, but my baby woke up. Had a great night. Have a great night. Thanks, Chloe. You too. Have a great night. If you're still here, have a great night. Okay. Let me see. Do you consider covering your hair with your modest clothing journey? No. So I'm not Muslim. I know that for a modest fashion, and not always, but I know for a modest fashion journey for someone from that is Muslim, someone from the Islamic faith, that would be a consideration for them. In Christianity, covering your hair, it's not a requirement, first of all, and it's something that's only really considered during prayer. So I wear things like kerchiefs or bandanas. I wear them every now and again, not that often. I would love to wear them more often. Even kufiyas, you know, the kerchiefs or the kufiyas, I would love to wear on a regular basis. I'm building up the confidence of being seen in public with them, because I know it's probably all in my head, but I feel like everyone's staring at me because it's just not a common thing to see someone wearing them. So I'm working on that one. But yeah, in terms of covering my hair as a part of the modest journey, no, it's not a part of modesty for me in my faith. Although I see the beauty in it, though, I really do. I have an obsession with kerchiefs. You know, they're like bandanas. You know, especially the way women used to wear them in the 1950s. But it's not something I would permanently do. Definitely in prayer. And that's really about it. In a mantilla, I have one. I actually have one. Okay, but I'm drinking Irish breakfast tea. It's one of my favorite flavors. Oh my God, enjoy. Oh, that's awesome. Can you speak and read Arabic? I can read Arabic reasonably, very slowly, but I can read it. But in terms of speaking it, I know like a handful of words. I'm really bad. I can sit there and say like, hello, how are you? My name is, like, all of that typical stuff. But other than that, no. But yeah, in terms of modest fashion, right? I can see a few people asking some things, and especially in regards to like the hair covering. Has your 100K follower surprise been announced yet? Oh my God, Pippa, yes! My announcement was that I'm going into theatre. If you scroll down on my page, you'll see a post where I'm talking about it. I'm standing in front of the announcement banner where I'm talking about how I'm going into a play later on in the year. You should start a modest fashion clothing line. You know how many people have said that? That fascinates me that that's actually been said as many times as it has. I would love to, but it's definitely not on the cards at the moment because I've got a few other things up my sleeve, so bear with me. Okay, in terms of let me see where that question went. Where'd that question go? I've lost it. How was your day? My day was good, thank you. Where are you? Okay, I can't find it. Oh, what lipstick am I wearing? Ruth. I am Huda Beauty. One of the purple shades from the Huda Beauty liquid matte lipsticks. Yeah, I've had this on all day. I only touched it up there recently. All right. Okay, I'm just gonna block someone. I'm so sorry, but sometimes some comments are a bit inappropriate. Inappropriate, I should say. Okay. Do you think that... Okay, so let's talk about modest fashion. Okay, awesome. Do you think that modest fashion should also be for men? I'm influenced, obviously, in my perspective on modest fashion via my own conviction as a Christian, right? So my answer to that question is I don't think anybody should be doing anything in particular. I'm not adhering to, modest fashion because I feel like it's a religious requirement. I just feel in my conviction as a Christian, it's something that helps me, on my journey of who I am trying to work towards being. I don't think modest fashion, I'm not going to turn around and say that men should be modest. Now, I know for example, in the Islamic community, when it comes to modest fashion, I know that is a requirement for men and women, not just women. But you're asking me as a Christian. So my standards or expectations in modest fashion as a Christian are purely personal. They're not ones that are collective in nature. So in Christianity, modesty isn't a requirement. It's something that if you do adhere to it, it's a choice via conviction. And for anyone that doesn't know what conviction means, conviction in Christianity, it means your opinion, your strong belief that comes as a result of your faith, right? Who is your favorite fashion icon? My grandmother, my Irish grandmother, and I mean this wholeheartedly. She is amazing. This woman is turning 85 smuller this year, and I have never ever in my life not seen her get up, put on a full matching outfit every single day and wear matching jewelry, matching shoes, matching hair accessories. My grandmother is my style icon. I adore her. I've made videos about it before. If I remember when I get off of the live, I'll share that video on one of them that I've made on my stories. Hi, Salwa! Would you say wearing a dress that is higher than the knee but doesn't show anything is modest? If that is what makes you feel modest, then yeah, modesty is personal. In my opinion, there is no generic approach to modesty. Everyone's going to have a different opinion in modesty. If your dress comes up, I personally would definitely say yes. I don't really wear short dresses. I don't like showing much of my legs. But if you're comfortable wearing a dress up to your knees, then definitely. Obviously, there comes a limit where you can't turn around and say, oh, I feel that that's modest if, you're completely exposed. I understand that. But that aside, there is nothing wrong with people's standards of modesty being different from one to the next. Where we go. She actually rocks every outfit. My grandmother yes, she's amazing. My favorite author? I don't know. Probably one that I obsess over the most would be Khalil Gibran. If anyone knows who that is, I love his book, The Prophet. Growing up, I was obsessed with J.K. Rowling. Harry Potter, who wasn't in my generation? I'm gonna say Khalil Gibran. I'm not a very I've read books, don't get me wrong. I'm an English teacher. Like I love a good book and I love poetry, but yeah, I'm not really someone who can probably hold a decent conversation when it comes to novels, unfortunately. Were you born a Christian? Yes, both my parents are Catholic Christians. Do you like different types of tea or just two? My favorite would be breakfast tea, and then after that berry tea. I like others, but not as much as these two. I like breakfast tea and berry tea the most. Green tea is all right. I love chamomile tea. Please drink your tea. I love chamomile tea, but yeah, I definitely have two that are my favorites. Top 3 favorite shopping stores. Can I say Versace as number 1? Sorry. I thought that was going to be funny, but that sounded really bad out loud. Look, my favorite designer brand would be Versace. I don't really care much for the others a whole lot. But in terms of more affordable ranges, I like Chic. If you're in Australia, I don't know if these brands are outside of Australia, but in Australia, my favorite would be Chic, Forever New, and this new one I'm obsessing over lately, Ganda clothing. I love it. It's really it's a casual brand. Chic is semi-formal to formal. Forever New is like smart casual to semi-formal, and then Ganda clothing is like streetwear. Which is like an awesome balance now that I think of it. I love those three shops the most. I just wanted to say that I love your page and your reels are my favorite. I love how you embrace modesty as a Christian woman. As a Muslim girl, I'm inspired by you. Thank you so much, Aisha. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That really made me smile. Thank you. I never wear dresses ever, but I have a friend's party coming up and I thought, why not try to look pretty? So I splurged and bought 2 dresses as I own none. I love that. You can be pretty in a lot of things. It doesn't have to be just a dress, but I love that. I honestly think it's so nice to get out of your comfort zone when it comes to your aesthetics sometimes and try different things. I'm doing that a lot lately and I love it. I love the experimental side in fashion. Would you look at that? I finished a cup of tea for once in my life on a live. Usually I don't. So with that being said, let's pour another cuppa. Also guys, it is, what's the time, Mr. Wolf? If anyone doesn't know that's a game in Australia you play growing up in primary school. Okay, I have about 10 more minutes before I have to go, guys, thereabouts. So any last questions, any topic at all, from next week, we're going to start trying to theme the topics. But any last questions before I have to go? This is a bit slow. There we go. We finally reached there in the end. Okay. Have you ever tried Moroccan mint tea? Yes, I did at the airport. What airport was I? I was probably in Spain, actually. I was waiting. Was it Spain? There was an airport that I was in and I tried it in a cafe in the airport and that was, it was amazing. Where is it? My opinion on, okay, I'll answer this like this. What's your opinion on a Muslim marrying a Christian? I'm not going to give an opinion because I feel like it's none of my business. I know a lot of people here know my previous partner was Muslim. I'm not going to get into that. Not now anyway. Maybe I will another time. But right now, I'm not going to get into that. But I'm not going to give an opinion on that because as someone who's been in that situation before, is really none of my business. My opinion is that if that's a choice that someone else is going to make about their life, it's something that they need to just think long and hard about and do whatever they feel is best for them and their partner. That's the only opinion I'm going to give because I don't like giving opinions, especially on a platform. I really don't think it's my place to give opinions about other people's personal lives. Even though I know the topic doesn't have to be, personally implied, it can be a generic based question, but yeah, I'm just not comfortable doing it. Sorry. Your voice is so strong. I don't know if you mean that in a good way, but I'm going to say thank you anyway. Are you binging anything on Netflix at the moment? No, I'm not at the moment because I've already finished binging. So my partner and I, Musa, and I binge watched a whole bunch of stuff earlier in the year. We were watching first The Karate Kid. That was so nostalgic because they have so many of the original actors from the movies in the show. Then, oh my gosh, what was the other one? I think it starts with an I and I forget right now. If Musa's watching this live, I know he's saying it out loud right now. I want to say, what was it called? There was another one. I forget. Oh my gosh. I forget what it was called. But what I was going to allude to was, remember how earlier in the live, if anyone is still here from the beginning, I was talking about how I love history, right? And when I was living in London, I adored, having all that access to so much history. And I binge watched The Crown, first with my father when I was living in London, and then again with the last 2 seasons with Musa. I love learning about the history, right? Like I mentioned before, negative connotations aside, I am well aware that they're there, but I binge watched that because I loved it. I thought it was awesome. Love from Argentina. Much love. Are you allowed to drink alcohol in Christianity? Yes. Not many things are forbidden in Christianity. Usually there are things, but usually what is forbidden is things in excess. So for example, with alcohol, alcohol itself is not forbidden, but your drinking alcohol in excess is forbidden. No question. Just want to say you're beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, you're too kind. Thank you. What's your favorite tea, and what's your opinion on Yorkshire tea? Yorkshire tea. I think I've only ever had Yorkshire tea like twice in my whole life, and that's probably while I was living in England. My favorite tea is Twinings breakfast tea. I love Twinings. I'm so sorry to my Irish family. I love Twinings. I sound like such a traitor on this live today upon reflection, but I love Twinings. Barry's tea and Lion's tea are two of the most popular teas in Ireland, and Lion's tea I think is my preferred brew over Barry's tea. So if that helps at all. Where would you like to travel next? Actually, I need to talk about that. I'm going to make a video about it and put it up on my story. About my travels. But where would I like to travel next? I want to go back to Europe. I know that's where I've spent majority of my time traveling, but I want to go back. I love Europe so much, and I never get enough of it. I lived in London for a bit, and I traveled around Europe, and I still don't have enough of it. I still want to go back. Your accent is a mishmash. How many languages do you speak? I speak one language. My accent's weird because of the influence from the Arabic accent from my Arab family and the Irish accent from my Irish family, and then growing up around people with different accents in Australia, and of course the Australian accent. Christmas Mayhem. Hi, thank you so much about the comment about my YouTube shorts. Thank you. The Islamic ruling is that a Christian male can marry a Muslim woman, but I don't know the exact ruling. So the ruling that I'm aware of, for anyone that doesn't know, I did read the Quran once upon a time, and the ruling is that a Muslim man can marry a woman, quote unquote, of the book. So anyone believing in the Abrahamic faiths, right? So Muslim, Christian, Jewish. However, that is not permitted of the women. And I think the argument for that is that the children follow the father, they take his name and they follow the father's religion, and so therefore it wouldn't be permissible. But yet in Islam, for the person commenting, it is only permissible for men to marry women that are of other religions of the book, as they call it. So Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. How long have you been with your partner? I've been with mine since I was 17 and we're almost 32. That's so beautiful. I've been with Musa for almost a year, which is really exciting because I feel like this last year, it's such a weird dichotomy. I feel like whilst this year has gone by so fast, at the same time, I feel like I've just been with Musa forever. As even though the year feels like it's gone so fast, I feel like I've been with him for so long. How long did you live in the UK? Only half a year. I got incredibly homesick, and I had to come home to my grandparents. To cut a long story short, I'm sure a lot of you have heard me talking about how I ran away from home and all of that. And living with my mom, I wasn't really allowed to see much of my grandparents, if at all. So I lost a lot of time with them. And then when I moved overseas, it's what I always wanted to do. I was desperate to move overseas for so long. And, I didn't realize how hard homesickness was going to hit me. So I moved overseas anyway, and the homesickness was diabolical, to say the very least. And then it hit me that my grandparents, they're of age, and I had already lost so much time with them before, and I didn't want to willingly give up that time with them again this time. So I came home after half a year. I couldn't take it anymore. Oh, when you say your partner, do you mean someone you're married to or just living with? Neither. Partner, just my partner who I'm with. So I suppose partner could refer to, dating or engaged or married or de facto or etc. But I say partner purely because of the fact I had a feeling eventually someone would question me on that. I say partner purely because of my age. I remember when I was in high school and my teacher said this once, and I never forgot it. And now I'm doing the same thing. I feel weird being 30 years old referring to my partner as my boyfriend. I'm not saying it's weird to have a boyfriend at 30. I just, for some reason, it just sounds different coming from a 30-year-old. So I just say partner. I like the word partner. I think it's a nicer word to use, but that's just me. All right. Hi from Turkey. Hi. All right, guys. 5 minutes and I'm heading out. I gotta get on with some work. So last couple of questions. Let's go. Do you still talk to your mum? No, I haven't spoken to my mum since I ran away from home, which was about 8 years ago now. Hi from Somalia. Hi from Sydney, Australia. Okay, let's quickly see what questions I might have missed. Okay, so these are questions that people sent in. I'm so sorry I didn't see these. What do you think the similarities between the Arab and Irish culture are? I'm Irish living in the UAE. Okay, similarities between the Irish and the Arab culture. It's so easy for me to talk about the differences because I do that all the time. But similarities, they're both very hospitable. I know the argument could be made about Arabs being, Arabs are known for their hospitality. And don't get me wrong, Arabs are extremely hospitable. But actually they are similar in the sense that the Irish are so lovingly welcoming. They are honestly, they're very warm. They're very high-spirited. When you go to visit an Irish person, in my experience, they tend to be so overtly friendly, and it's just it's so nice. And then likewise with the Arabs, their vibe, their energy, their whole mood when you come into their home, it is incredibly welcoming, incredibly hospitable, and that is accompanied by their hospitality in regards to food and gift giving and all of that sort of thing. So I would say definitely probably similarities would have to be in their hospitality. What else? You're testing me with this one because it's definitely more so in terms of oh my gosh, what am I saying? Huh? How did I not think of this one before? Specifically with regards to me being yes, Arab, but specifically Palestinian. Actually, the Irish and the Palestinian struggle, they relate so unfortunately, they relate so closely on that one. So the similarities there is their struggle. They bond through that struggle. Yeah, so there's two similarities for you. Next question. Would you ever go to Egypt? This breaks my heart. Egypt is my number one go-to destination, like top of the bucket list. I am dying to go to Egypt. Since I was 7 years old, all I have ever cared about is Egypt. When I was a child, my mother never used to read me nursery rhymes, fairy tales, or she did when I was younger. But when I was 7, she stopped reading them. She never used to read them anymore because she would just read with me my history books that I was borrowing from the library that I was utterly obsessed with. And there was this one book I think I've ruined because I borrowed it week after week after week. And it was like a fairly detailed picture book about ancient Egypt. And I ever since then I have been dying to go visit Egypt. So yes, long story short, I would love to visit Egypt one day, but it's we'll have to just wait and see what happens. What is the best thing about working with kids? I mean, it gives you a kid fix. How about that? It gives you a kid fix, and then that's it. You don't really feel like you need to have kids, because working with them gives you, that few hours in a day, or more than a few hours, several hours in a day of an enjoyment with children, and then that's it. You don't need to. I'm joking. I'm not joking. I'm partially joking. Best thing about working with kids, it depends whether you're talking about high school, whether you're talking about primary school. I suppose enjoying the innocence of children, seeing, the beauty of life through their eyes. And I know that sounds really odd to say, but as an adult, we see things in such a tunnel vision way. We were so focused on work and life and trying to keep our head above water. And then when you're with children, you're allowed to kind of get out of that adult reality and just spend some time, and this is in primary school for context, spend some time in a slower pace, calmer world where kids are so much happier and tend to be a lot more, more easily impressed by the simple things in life. And then in terms of high school, I really enjoyed teaching my year 11 and 12 kids, so the ends of high school. That was probably the best thing about working with teenagers, was being able to teach them those things that in the topics that they selected to study for their end of school exams, things that they were really interested in. So sorry, I know I'm missing a lot of questions, guys. Any advice for someone who wants to become a teacher? Make sure that you really do want to become a teacher. In this generation, it can be quite challenging to be a teacher. And I say that not just as anyone, just not with fears based on things that they listen, for example, from the news or that they see on social media. No, I say this as someone who actually is a teacher, right? And it's a whole different ball game to what it was when we were in school, or at least when I was in school. And it can be quite challenging. And I'm sure it was challenging back then, and it's still challenging now, but it's challenging in really different ways. And those challenges can be quite stressful and quite mentally draining. I don't think a lot of people realize, the toll, I don't think a lot of people realize the toll that, teaching can take. So please make sure that this is really what you want. And then if you do decide that it really is what you want, my next advice would be to be forgiving of yourself, because in the beginning it is really, really hard work building your routine, building your portfolio, building your lesson plans, getting all your resources together. Be forgiving of yourself. You put a lot of pressure on yourself thinking, I've been to university, I should be able to have this down pat. It takes time. Actually, on average, they argue it takes about 5 years for you to be really established. So be kind to yourself. Like, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Let yourself grow through the process as best as you can. All right. I'm half Egyptian and half British Irish. Just returned from Palestine, and they're the most hospitable in the region. And there are my Arab family. I instantly, if someone asks me to think about what comes to mind when I think of my Palestinian family, I would straight away think about their hospitality. Where is your family from in Palestine? Haifa. My mum's family come from Haifa. Welcome to Egypt, inshallah. How many languages do you speak? 1. Okay. Where is it? Sorry, I've missed so many questions. I'm so sorry. Okay, wait. I might head out now, Berna. I need to read through my monologue and hi. Good luck with your Shakespeare. Let me know how you go with with YouTube and with those books that I was telling you about. Okay. I'm a victim of abuse too, and I'm abroad in Egypt at the current time. As my family have abused me, do you think I should just pack up and go back to England or make a visit to the embassy? That's a very loaded question. I can't give a generic answer because the question that you're asking isn't a generic one. So when I talk about the fact that I ran away from home, I'm obviously talking about it from my own personal experience. My experience is different to the next person, and therefore what my advice will be, which comes from my experience, will be different to the next person. Only you're going to know. You can take as much advice and influence from other people as you like, but in the end, the only person who's really going to know what's right for you is you. So I don't know what your situation specifically is. You've given me some information. Now you said go back to England. Is that because that's where you were from before? And if you go back, are you going to be alone? Do you have family that you can go to? Like, for example, in my scenario, I left home because I had, aside from the fact that, it was an abusive situation, I also had somewhere to go. Now, if you've got somewhere to go, then inshallah, I wish you all the best. If it is a bad environment that you're living in and you feel like you need to leave and you've got a safe place to go to, then yes, I think that's great. You need to really think about what is going to be best for you in the long run. If you leave, are you going to be able to hold your head up? If you haven't got anywhere to run to, can you not find people that can help you in the process? I have absolutely no idea what the systems are that are in place in Egypt for these situations, but I just feel like you need to weigh up your options and assess the situation. Yeah. And then in terms of visiting the embassy, I feel like, okay, when referencing the embassy in that statement, I feel like that implies a level of severity in the abuse. So then I'm definitely going to say that you would probably need to make sure that you've got someone to help you out, because I can't even begin to fathom what the process of you leaving is going to be like. But I wish you all the best, and inshallah you have some sort of peace in your recovery process and in your departure. I have young teachers, and as a high school student, it's really great that the teacher understands our age and has a good connection with us. Yeah. Definitely. I obviously when I first started out, I was a young teacher, and I still think I'm a young teacher even now, but when I first started out, I was a 24-year-old, 23 and 24-year-old working with 18-year-olds. And that was really hard actually at first, but yes, in terms of like a connection with the students, it was awesome. You got to build a relationship with them that was compatible, because you guys weren't so far apart in your generations, and you had some sort of bond there. But it was hard at the same time, because trying to establish, respect, establish those teacher-student boundaries when you're only a couple years older is actually also quite challenging. Good night. Okay, people are also starting to say good night. Listen, it has been now just over an hour. I really have to go and do some other work now, and it's also quite late here in Australia. So, without further ado, I need to go. Thank you to everyone that joined. Next week, I'm going to put out some question boxes on my story for whatever theme people would like me to focus on next week. But thank you so much, guys, for joining. I appreciate it. I will definitely this time 100% inshallah will have this uploaded onto YouTube before the next live comes on. I'll notify you guys also of that on my story. But thank you so much for joining, guys, and yeah, inshallah I'll see you guys next time. Yalla, goodbye, guys. Have a good night.